are we out of that?
No, I'm still taking questions.
Okay. What would you suggest as a criteria or questions when you're trying to move from a hobbyist to a bit more of a serious artist?
What do you mean?
Like, what at what point do you think someone can say, "Yeah, I think I could support myself somewhat off of what I can do"?
Mm, well, are you making money as like? Are you looking for an actual criteria?
I'll take a vague guideline.
Okay, because you're asking me like, how do I know when I'm in love? You know, like, well, you just know. I'd say there's some signs you can look out for. Like, are you getting consistent work? You know, are enough people asking you for commissions? Uh, do you have a great response? You know, do you have the network to do it? Do you know a bunch of people that need work? Are you actually like do you actually like can forecast how much work you're gonna get? Like taking commissions as like a starting freelancer, um, I guess you could say like as a hobbyist and starting that source of income is one thing, but being able to quit your job and like make it full time as a freelancer, you're gonna know when you're doing that when like the work is coming in enough and you're seeing the money come in enough that you can just stop doing what you're doing and take that leap. I would also say like when you have enough savings to kind of like if you want me to give you like the ideals like you have enough savings to bridge that gap for a couple months to live off of. You have enough work coming in. You're at a certain level that you feel comfortable with that you can turn over the work that's being asked of you. I would say like if you need like in terms of skill, like when you are like ready, because like life situation is like it's different for everybody. It's hard for me to be like, well, you need to have this, this, and this in line. Otherwise, it's never gonna work. Like I always hesitate to give like requirements for things because every time I do, I find somebody that has broken those requirements. Um, I would say the best rule of thumb would be if you're getting the work and you're capable of meeting not only the deadline but the time frame in which you're getting the work, and you have at least a solid plan that you feel as though can be marketable, then you can start kind of thinking of it like as now I might be ready to start taking the jump to doing this full time. Prior to being able to do it full time, like it doesn't matter if you're getting, and this is why I'm like, don't rush. Everybody's in a rush. Being in a rush burns you out. Guarantees. Guaranteed. Every single time. If you're in a rush, you're gonna crash. Like, you can't be. And that is like probably, I guess you can say, most disheartening truth I ever found. That every time I tried to push super hard for something I didn't have direct control over, i.e., relationships, i.e., my life, my position in life, or something, I ended up pushing really hard for a short period of time, not getting that goal, burning out, spiraling out, and not being able to achieve it. When I just kind of did what I know was right and practiced it and slowly built it, like my understanding of these things, of business, all these other things, being a part of businesses, helping people with their businesses, using all these tools and tricks and everything. Like that was a very slow process for me. That ended up being very fruitful. But every time I've tried to like grab life by the balls and seize it under my control, it always kind of blew up in my face. So the reason why I'm saying like take it slow is because that's the only way that you can kind of pay attention to what's happening and adapt properly to scale yourself up to new situations. And being ready, like I'm ready. It's like, well, like if you're setting up an expectation in customers and you're getting customers and you're delivering on those expectations and they're getting the product you want, I don't care what skill level you're at as an artist, you're now like a working professional. That's just the way it is. I don't care if you know your proportions or whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, if you have an audience and they're commissioning you out and you're fulfilling their commissions and you're getting it done and you're building a reputation with them, I don't care how quote unquote good you are as an artist. You're a professional now because you're treating it like a professional and you have professional integrity. And when you have that working in your favor and you have a consistent client base, now you're making a living. Now you can start pushing, I guess you can say, to transition out of a job or something. It's the actual professionalism as opposed to professional skill level. If you want to have more you want to be more marketable, if you want to be more universally acceptable or more desired or in more demand, then I would say like you want to be at a quote unquote professional skill level. If you have an audience for what you do, the way you do it, and you're not interested in looking like an anime artist or a comic book artist or an animator or whatever, or a concept artist or an environmental artist or a prop designer, you're not interested in that. You like the way you draw and you have an audience for it, and they demand products from you or demand services from you, and then you're ready to start taking those steps. If you don't have that, then and you want to start it like now, like where you're at, I would say start by ensuring that you're getting paid for your time properly and that you're marketing yourself properly in as many different environments as possible and creating a network. um I like I a network is such a dirty word, but like that's what social media is. That's what a following is. That's what like your peers are in a working environment and whatnot. Like like I've seen so many artists that are so phenomenally good, solid in their fucking fundamentals, that are ready for the work, right? They can't market themselves. They've stayed in a cave and got really good, but they never developed any business skills. They never developed any like person to person business interactions. They never kind of learned how to have relationships and whatnot with people, just standard friendship ones. They never really put themselves out there. There's nothing wrong with that, like there's nothing wrong with that. But you can't do that and be a successful freelancer at the same time. Like you have to learn the business side of things in order to be successful at the business side of art. That's the only way it works. Is one more right than wrong? No, it depends on your goals. Some artists are phenomenal, but they don't plan on being like a professional artist despite how much the world tells them they should, because they enjoy their job that they have right now. And they don't plan on changing it. They don't want to, and they like doing it as a hobby. But if you are willing to take the dive and start making money, you got to start treating it like a business. And you'll know if like, all right, I'm delivering things on time. If you don't know, then just start anyways and you'll find out. Like sometimes knowing when to take the leap keeps you from ever taking the leap in the first place. And you just got to take the leap. It's hard for me to like blanket a statement for that, which is why it's been difficult for me to answer this question like completely. But I hope that's a sufficient answer for you.
No, yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
This Google Doc. Oh, it's a class? All right, guys. I'll take a couple more questions. I feel like I am burning you guys out. I see the numbers slowly ticking down. Um, And what has it been? It's been 2.5 hours. I usually like to keep it around an hour and a half. And the main meat of the class that I really wanted you guys to absorb is done. Um, but I would like to be able to address some of your individual concerns. I think I've hit the majority of what I feel like you need in order to get started on this journey. And more importantly, the mindset that's required in order to be successful at this journey and whatnot. Not necessarily successful. The mindset that's required in order to ensure you're protected in this environment. I shouldn't say I had the mindset you need to be successful. I'm not Gary Vanderchuck. I'm not trying to sell you on a dream. Buy my book. I just want to ensure that you guys have at least a proper framework to operate within so that you're not being taken advantage of and that you're getting the most out of your time if possible. But you guys seriously tailor it. Apply what you can, apply what you understand. If you don't believe me, you don't have to do it. It's not the only way to do it. I'm just saying that I'm giving you guys what the graphic designers do and what I did and what I continue to do and what I continue to teach. It works for me. You can always find a way to make it work for you. It is not a be all end all solution for things. It is not the only way things should be done. I just want to ensure that you guys are getting the most out of your time and that hopefully we start as like an artist community, like finding a system that actually doesn't pay us $3 to $7 an hour.
Amen.
Wanted to hear about the fundamental stuff. I know that's for next time, but what can I do until your holy next class will be to not waste my time? Yeah, I guess I can give you guys a general outline of fundamentals real quick because I know some of you guys came for that, and then this got deeper than I don't know why I didn't think it. I don't know why I thought I was gonna be able to cover this subject without going super deep. I don't know what I was. What websites can I use to find jobs in the industry? I can't answer that question. I do not know. Uh, uh, I have no clue. I can't say I can tell you this about the industry though. They generally don't hire from open job calls. It is usually being referred only. They sometimes will. It's very rare, but it's usually kind of an insular network, and that's why they call it breaking in, because like you kind of need to be like it's like Fight Club. You kind of need to be invited into it. That's just what I've hear and whatnot. That's what I can't give you like super advice on this, primarily because I don't have experience. As far as fundamentals go, we'll just cover that real quick. Geez, I hope it's gonna be real quick. What I was gonna give you guys is a general foundation and a little bit of an explanation. Huh? Hello? How does one usually get invited? Have you maybe heard from others their story of breaking into the industry? I mean, yeah. You know how you get invited into the industry? Like, you got to meet people. Like, I'm giving you literally, like, this whole, like, everything that I'm doing, this, like, kill 12 birds with one stone. I guess you can say this, like, the core underlying message is here's the foundation, right? And then you guys are asking me, well, then how do I find people? That's all I really want you to understand that that's what you're asking me is how do I get commissions? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I get into the industry? How do I do this? You're asking me, how do I find people? Really, that's what you're asking. And it's like, then you got to go meet them. Like, but how do I find the person I'm looking for? You got to be in a lot of people. How do I find love? You got to date a lot. You know, like there's stories of like so many different examples, but the best thing you can do is uh the best thing you can do is um, get good at get good at being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there and showing up. There is a chaotic serendipity to life that the more you get okay with it, the more it kind of serves you. There are techniques to things. There are social techniques to things. There's a kind of way to operate into things that kind of increase your chances and whatnot. Um, but if I wanted to get in the industry right now, at my current skill level, I could. Um, Ethan just told me the other day. I will tell you this. Ethan just told me the other day. Oh my god, dude. I'm gonna have to train like half these. You know what? I don't know if I should be spilling business. Uh. Anyways. Yeah. I just caught myself, and I was like, oh man. I want to tell you guys, but I don't know if those artists are here. Um. The best way to get into the industry, like, it doesn't matter about skill. Okay, that doesn't matter. What matters, like, it matters to a degree. But you have to have working knowledge. But it's really a matter of working with people, referring people, and everything. I will tell you right now that if your only interest in meeting somebody is getting you into the industry, they will sniff you out. Just be. I know this sounds like terrible advice because it's not pragmatic, but there are certain things about this life that are just not under our control. And the only way that we can really get the benefit from it is by positioning ourselves the best way we can to receive it. That is the most complete answer I can give you. Like, yeah, you could go to smaller studios and talk to people in smaller studios. Hey, you know what? You could go to you could go to colleges and meet a whole, well, I mean, if you're in the reasonable age range, like, you can go to colleges and hang out with college students, and when they get into a job, you can have them refer you. Like, you could go and do a whole bunch of stuff. Like, there's so many different routes. Are they going to work? No, there's no way to know. But the best thing you can do is go where artists are, share with artists, get, like, be a decent person, like, genuinely make connections with people, and allow life to kind of do its job. Like, don't be sitting by yourself in the same group of friends hoping you're going to get injected into the industry. It does require a little bit of legwork from you. If you want to know a really good place to start, it would be conventions. I know a lot of people that have gotten into game industries from conventions, just talking to people. They didn't talk to people with the intent of getting into the industry. They spoke to industry professionals with the intent of getting to know the industry professional, to find out if they like the industry professional, to establish a relationship with them. And then, if the chance came, that industry professional would refer them. They were more interested in making friends with industry pros than they were about actually getting into the industry. And usually those people get into the industry because somebody can tell if you're just using them as a stepping stone or if you're a friend. Like, when you said meeting people, I immediately thought of conventions, but that's an issue for people like me who live far away. It's thousands of dollars just to fly out to one. Then you have to find something else. Like, if I'm giving you possible paths, not the only path, I'm giving you a possible path. The You know what you could do? You know where I met all my friends? This is literally what happened. I went onto a forum. I met Waveloop. I got Psychra as a teacher once or twice. Psychra liked me. Then we started hanging out. And then just magically people started showing up and I started meeting people. I can't really prescribe that for you guys, but it was magic. And you could be like, oh, this is like, that was really magic. No, no, no. Like, I was consistently always looking for people to be friends with because I didn't have friends. but I wanted people that were good at what they did to be friends with. And then all of a sudden, my life is filled with all these good people that are good at art, that are my friends, and I never asked them for anything, ever. I've known some of these guys for like 7 years. I never was like, hey, get me a job. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Do this for me. I liked them. Like, and then I meet more people, and then I never asked them for anything, you know? But if I ever really needed something, they'd be there for me. Not because I know them, but because I'm their friend. Like, and I help, and I just be a half decent person. And like, opportunities just open up. I can't, like, it's rough, but like, when things like opportunities are always surrounding you, you have to be in a position to receive them. Always. You're not going to find them from me like all the time, you know? Right now, I am like learning to like I'm taking on like a ton of stuff. I'm probably one of the worst people in the world for general opportunities because like I specialize in connecting people. I love connecting people together. That's what I love to do and whatnot. But like for a direct opportunity, I do my own thing. Like I live my own life. I do. I'm a freaking nomad wander. I'm not okay. Look, fundamentals.
Sorry, Costa, there's one question I feel like it needs to be answered. They've said, I made a deal with a customer and I think I've worked much more than the agreed price already. Should I tell the customer that I think that my work deserves more than
No,
agreed price?
no. That's why I'm having this talk, because that gets really sticky. It gets really, really sticky. And this is kind of, I guess you can say, like the lesson. You absolutely could ask for more, but they may not even end up paying you at all and walking away from the situation. It's a gamble. Normally, what I did in the past and what I normally do is if I find myself in a situation where I ended up doing more than the agreed upon price, I just end up doing more and just taking the hit and taking it as a lesson. Primarily because, like, my integrity gets called into question, and it was ultimately my fault because you can't just set like a line in the sand, or you can't just say, hey, like, this is what it's worth. And then somebody goes and then you do it and you're like, actually, it's worth more. They're not going to hear it like, oh man, I put in a lot of extra time in it. I don't care how you spin it. They're going to hear it like, we agreed upon this. Now you're asking for more. Like, it's not gonna go well, because they would have been like, if I knew it was that much, I would have never taken the commission to begin with. You've wasted your time. I'm done. Like, I'm not paying you at all. Like, that's a real possibility. Sometimes they might be reasonable and they might go, oh, okay, all right, well, here's more. But I guarantee they'll never ever work for you again unless they really like you. There's always that possibility. But the second you establish, I guess you can say, and this is why negotiations in the beginning are so freaking important. The second you establish a standard for service, and you say it is worth this much money, and you say that, I will charge you this much money, and they agreed to it. They agreed to it based on the terms that you set in the beginning. This is how establish, like, and here's the funny thing. This is the perfect example of why you don't put a price on your commission sheet, because then you put in more work. But your commission sheet, your advertisement said $50. It is quite literally false advertising if you deliver the product they paid for and you put $50 on the thing. There's no way you can argue it. None whatsoever. You're screwed. You have to do it. Because in the eyes of a court or anything, they'll be like, nope, he doesn't owe you anything else. You said $50. That's why you can't do that. I would just finish the work, give it to the person, take the hit, learn from it, just maintain a decent relationship with them. And then when they approach you again, you go, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, on the previous agreed upon price and whatnot, it ended up being more work. I'm going to honor that with you, but I had to change. I've been getting slammed with commissions too much, and I had to change it to an hourly rate because now I'm like working for like $3-4 an hour. So this is my new rate. And on the next piece, they'll do like, and they might go, hey, you know what? I actually felt like I wasn't paying you enough anyways. Like, I think you did a great job. I know you delivered on time. I'm willing to pay you at your rates and whatnot. I'm willing to do that, right? You don't want a customer like you don't want to cancel out the opportunity by slapping somebody in the face by a change of like you move the goalpost. You know what I mean? Because imagine you went to let me put it this way. Imagine you went to uh uh Best Buy and you bought stereo, and then you bought the stereo at $30. Then you took the stereo home, and the next day the stereo is worth way more. It's actually worth $50, and Best Buy calls you up and says, hey, by the way, we sold you that stereo at $30, but actually it's worth 50. Can you give us $20 more? You're gonna be like, screw you. It was $30 on the price tag. This is why you don't put a price tag on these things, because that's how they're going to think. They're not going to think you took a bunch of extra time on the piece or whatnot. They have no way of knowing how much time you put on that piece. They have no way of knowing if you're lying or not. There's no way for them to know. They have to take you at your word. But apparently your word is bad because you're asking for more money. So they're going to immediately be like, your word is no good, so I can't take you at the money. Like, your word may actually be good. You may have truly intended it to be this much and whatnot, but you've actually just said, I lied to you in the beginning, or I didn't understand, or I don't know what I'm doing. So that's why you just take the hit and you move on. Your integrity never comes into play, and just take it and roll.
Can I say like one thing?
Sure.
In terms of like art, I feel like everyone keeps thinking of it like you're a machine and you can print out the same work at the same time. But if you're doing different things constantly, you can't be unless you're generating it at the same rate, you can't be doing a fixed price because everything will take different amount of time.
Yeah, but that's literally what this entire class is about, is ensuring that you guys understand you can't do that.
Exactly.
But the question was like, but I already did that. Now I understand this. I think it's worth more based on the new information. It's like, well, when you said it at the time, you have to honor that. Just take the hit, finish the work, keep your integrity intact. That's so important. Anytime you compromise your integrity, especially for the sake of money, even if you're not truly compromising your integrity, I agree with you. It's probably worth a lot more than you charged, but it's a compromise in integrity because you said one thing and then the facts change later on. So you're going to be trading your word that you gave for an additional amount of money. And that's why I'm like really warning you. You can do it if you want to. Yeah, I like, if you know it's for the right reasons, you can do it. But I'm going to tell you, that customer is not going to respond well to that. Take it easy.
Go.
There's not really much time. I'm just taking questions. Somebody was asking, God, new shit has come to life. I'll take your advice and keep the price. Yeah, just don't make the same mistake again. Exactly, Leon. Sorry, guys. I usually have a hard time paying attention to the chat. If you notice, like if I'm talking, if I look down and read, I immediately stop talking and just start reading and processing that, and it'll throw me off a little bit. So, yeah, I hope this makes sense to you guys. I think we can wrap it up here. Does anybody have a burning question? Do I have advice if you get hit by depression? Yeah, I do. Especially if you watch the Q&A that I had. I mean, this is a class on whatever business, but and by the way, demotivation and depression was a very long class, but it depends on how severe your depression is. If you have really severe depression, my advice is to go speak to a medical professional. If it's just, I guess you could say general depression or demotivation and whatnot, I'd say first, you might want to identify if it's depression or burnout. I mean, did it just come from working too hard? And then you're just kind of like vegging and you just can't move? That might not be depression. That might be burnout. In which case, I would first, well, no matter what, whether it's depression, burnout, major depression, I think the first most healthy thing you can do for yourself is kind of allow yourself to be that and forgive yourself for it. That's the first thing. Like, if you start going, I'm depressed and fuck me, I'm fucking depressed, it's just gonna make it worse. Like, and it's not helping. And it's not true because your depression could be a defense mechanism. It could be your brain shutting down in order to protect you from being overwhelmed by emotions. So your brain is kind of shutting off for a little bit and putting you into like an incubation period or not an incubation, into a recovery period and allowing you to kind of reset a little bit and rebuild a lot of those necessary neurotransmitters and to recover a little bit from maybe some overexerted emotion or even overexerted brain power. So the first thing I would always say with depression is like, let's not look at it like, let's first not look at it like it's an enemy, right? Let's first look at it like it's an ally. It's protecting me. It has a function inside of me. It's trying to show me something. And then I would say find a goal that you're willing to achieve and just start working towards that. Some of the most effective things I've found when I get into depression are pretty general advice, but they do absolutely kind of work. For like mild and moderate, like very mild depression, it'll work. For real serious depression, like that's not really a joke, like, and it's not something I can answer for you. But like mild stuff, starting out the day just getting some sun, getting on a half decent circadian cycle, which is like getting to bed at a decent time, um, uh, drinking water and lifting. These small habits have a profound effect on your mood and your hormonal levels. And if you're not, if your neurotransmitters and your body is out of whack, primarily like it can really affect you negatively. So I would first start with vitamin D3 is phenomenal. Sun is phenomenal. Heat, warmth is phenomenal. But again, these are like, it's a hard topic because it's not easy to answer. But I would start by first identifying, is this depression or is this burnout? If it's depression, how bad is it? Can you not get out of bed at all? Like, okay, you may need to get some help because you might be in a state that is kind of beyond just like actually getting yourself motivated. Like you can want to get yourself motivated, but you literally can't move. So I would figure it out on that level. But if it's burnout, I would say actually take the time to actually relax for a little while. There's no need to rush. You may feel like you need to rush. Usually that feeling of feeling like you need to rush is what spirals you out in the beginning and wrecks you. So like, why don't we be kind with ourselves a little bit and just like be like, all right, you know what? All these thoughts in my head, cool. I know I hate myself. Okay, cool. Like usually that's what I'll do. I'll trivialize the thoughts in my head. They'll be like, "Oh, you're a fucking idiot." I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, cool." Like I'll just minimize it. I just don't entertain it as much. I just created a second voice in my head that just goes, "Yeah, okay, sure, possibly." That's a really powerful word for things in your head. Possibly. You're an idiot. Possibly. I everybody hates you. Possibly. Like instead, and yeah, is Santa real? Possibly. And it when you speak to yourself negatively, when you speak in a hard constant, like you don't allow yourself out of that constant. So just saying possibly, actually immediately allows you to indulge in that negative thought, but not accept it. So. Would you also put an hourly wage working on emotes? Uh, this is great ass advice, possibly. Yeah. It's it's a powerful internal mechanism that doesn't allow you to entertain those demons for too long, but it allows you to like let them go. Like if you're feeling depressed, you can't stop those thoughts. So let them come and then just add possibly to it and then immediately erases the impact of it. You're like, yeah, that's a possibility, but there's other possibilities as well. Because I fear that I won't be able to work as hard as those in the industry already. How hard do people in the industry work? Yeah, sure. I figured like nonstop with a bunch of projects in their hands and then draw more after that. Let me ask you something. If I told you to run a marathon right now, 20K marathon right now, could you do it? Like right now? No. Okay. So you see people out there that are just crushing 20K marathons. Are they better than you? No, they're not. Like, do they have more potential than you? No. Um, like they earned that 20K, but when they're running, they're not running that marathon out of breath. But if you start running that marathon right now, you'd be out of breath. Why? Because they gradated themselves to be able to do that much work. They ran maybe 1K, and then a 2K, and then a 3K, and then a 4K. Then all of a sudden they started running 20Ks. Like they gradated to that ability to do it. Also, on a physical level, their body doesn't need to work as hard to keep them moving because their muscles have developed to keep that momentum. It's the same with art. You guys are like, I can't even get one drawing done or one project done and whatnot. It's like, yeah, no, duh. How much brain power are you putting into problem solving on that one drawing? Probably a ton. Because a drawing a figure is not easy to do. There's a lot you have to consider. And if you don't have like a method that's like you understand each step to get from point A to point B, you're sitting there applying like mathematic, like that picture of from of Zach Galifianakis with all the numbers around his head and everything, and he's calculating from the whatever that movie is that they're in Vegas. I've already forgot the name. That's it. Thank you, Wita. That's you for every drawing. You know what they look like when they're drawing? Like they're barely they're drawing like they speak language. They're barely processing anything because they already have everything ingrained in them. Like when I watch an artist draw, I know how much he's like. I know the exact process they're using when they look like they're not even laying in foundation. I can see like what you can say is the invisible foundation that they're putting in and how they're getting from point A to point B logically every time. They're not thinking. They're not thinking at all. They're just drawing. Like, you think I'm thinking about every word that I'm using right now in order to tell you what I'm telling you in this language that I'm speaking? No, I'm familiar with it. I don't have to think about it. I can just say it. But if we were, and I said this in the previous class, if we were speaking in Japanese, I'd have to stop and think and remember what word and what format and what sentence and what syntax and whatever in order to express even the simplest idea. That's you guys in drawing. So if you feel like, oh, I can't work nearly as hard as them, the reality is you're working 4 times as hard as them in order to get through your drawing right now. Like 4, 5, 6, 10 times harder than they are to get through their drawings. You're working way too much. Or thinking about what you're doing while driving if you aren't new to driving. Exactly. Like, I want you guys to realize that each one of you that is spending 8, 9, 10 hours or days on an illustration are working way harder than the industry pros are. They are literally just skating by on their skates, having a grand old time. And just like, they don't have to process too much. They just process the creative side of things. That's all they need to process. They don't process their fundamentals. They don't process all the hard problem solving. Like, they barely have to process much because they're just familiar with it. They've just dealt with these problems for that long. Whereas you guys, every single line is a problem that you need to solve. So you're working way harder than they are. Does it apply if it's not 8 hours a day for an illustration, but 8 hours a day for studying? Yeah, quite literally. So you're saying it eventually gets to that point by practicing and learning. If you're actually practicing a method and you're actually learning, it absolutely 100% does. And you can rest assured it becomes as natural and fluent as it does if you were learning a language. It depends on what source of material you're learning from, if you're understanding that material, and if you're applying the practices in ways that you can actually apply to thinking. It absolutely 100% does. You will not, if you're actually using a real method and you're actually learning the language of art, it eventually gets to the point where you don't have to process much. You just do it. Like, Millie can Millie can fucking attest to this. Watch, Millie, when you saw me draw last, right? When you saw me draw last, it was what? A year and a half since I drew? How easy was it for me to get a good result? Year and a half, didn't have to do crap. Yeah, quite literally. So I'm familiar with, I went through the ringer. It's like riding a bike for me. I just do the things I know work. I forgot some things, and my arm is really rusty. I not only have the knowledge, Millie, I have the practice, like riding a bike. My muscle memory says all you have to do is this, and all you have to do is this, and all you have to do is this. And I know what I'm looking for, so I have the eye as well. Everybody else that's a professional artist that does this in entertainment industry and whatnot, concepts artists and whatnot, they're not processing shit. Like, they don't get burnt out anymore. Like, they get burnt out if they've been drawing 16 hours a day and not sleeping or eating or anything, but they don't get art block. They don't get any of that anymore. They don't have to deal with any of that, primarily because they're not constantly running their brain at 200, 300 miles per hour to freaking get the result. English is my second language. Could you please explain what it means to study a method? That was what the fundamental class is going to be on. Is I'm going to give you guys the method that I studied. It is not the only method. It is not the correct method. It was a method that I found to be I found to be most productive for me. It was the method I learned in art school, and it's a process. So is that person that was asking for art fundamentals still around?
I believe so.
You know what? Bloss, were you the one that was asking for what is the fundamentals?
I think there's a few people who did.
Okay. I'd also love fundamental. Okay, so let's go with it was me. Sure, why not? Okay, you see those fundamentals? If you type in exclamation point fundamentals, there's a lot of people in here that will tell you different things, right? We're going to cover this really fast. Proportion, perspective, form, and gesture. There's a reason why I numbered them in that order, okay? Shape is technically in there, but you'll learn it in form. So before you can, I guess you can say, learn the process of making a 3D image on a 2D plane, you should master 2D things, right? Go from 2D to 3D. It's easier that way. So instead of thinking of the body as a body in which you need to represent, let's think about it in steps. So that way, with each step, we can get so familiar with that step, and that step becomes so ingrained in us that we don't have to ever think about that step again, and then we can go to the next step. Is this the best process in the world and whatnot? Am I going to use this all the time? Some things will be ingrained in you, but like some people think differently. This is what works for me. This is the reason why this is kind of a tried and true method that like this, the method I'm telling you right now, learning proportions first and then going from next step to next step, is what they use and have used for hundreds of years in art. This is it wasn't until the advent of the internet and YouTube where people were told you can make a living in art and become an artist and do whatever you want to do as an artist and whatnot. And then there's actually also a lot of the postmodernistic movements and whatnot. But like Picasso was trained, and then he wanted to show that you could express things without sticking to this rule and whatnot. So I'm not going to speak about art. I'm going to speak about the draftsmanship and skill of entertainment design and whatnot. So this is very, very specific to a specific goal. Okay. So we're not going to talk about what you can do in art. You can do anything you want in art, you know? Like I can do anything I want in language. I can go bird ball, baseball bat, cheese, tower, the. I said some words. I didn't really communicate it, but if we really wanted to assign meaning to it, we could. You know what I mean? Would you say that burnout is an important factor in not only maintaining mental health, but also in maintaining your quality of work by not forcing, like, rushing your way through it? Taking breaks from art is a good thing? Yes, Fubar. I had a whole class on that. But yes, that is absolutely a good thing to take breaks. You have to. You can't not. So, like, just like language, you can do anything you want with the language. We have slang, we have rules that break the language, but before we learn a language, it's generally advisable that we learn how to structure the language before we start playing with it and, making it fun. You don't have to. You can still find ways to communicate without that. Sometimes it's funner that way as well. So I'm not going to be talking about art. I'm going to be talking about draftsmanship. Draftsmanship does have a set of rules. It is a skill. It is a means to communicate. So it does have a process of learning. Of those four fundamentals, the reason why proportion is number one is because proportion gives you a means to visually measure. It's a ruler, right? But everybody looks at it like a ruler and just goes, "Oh, I just need to memorize these numbers, never do it again." No. You want to know what defines like a really good artist? Like one that is tuned to seeing the spacing and distance between two lines. If you can get, and this is where it's going to start. So by the time the next class goes, if you need a direction, grab a proportion sheet, go grab a Loomis proportion sheet, right? And then trace over the proportions, and then do a side by side, like actually do a side by side where you're just trying to visually kind of nail those proportions, and then go over what you think are the distances between those lines, and then figure out if they're actually truly equal. If this is a digital format, what you do is you just, like, from where you start at the head, from the top of the head to the bottom of the head, those are 2 lines. Then you measure the distance of that, right? And then you work down, and like not even just measuring the distance, you just copy that distance, and then you duplicate it down, line up the lines when you duplicate it down, so the top of the line meets the bottom of the headline. Make sure that's lined up, and see how much further you were away from that line when you just tried to eyeball it. That's how untuned your visual measuring is. And you should go through a practice for about 30 minutes a day of just tuning, reading spatial distance between lines and sizes. And what your brain eventually starts to do for you, that you never have to ever do again, is it starts to be able to visually measure things. Maxie, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here. What's up?
So what happened when I looked at your piece earlier today, when I looked at those hands?
You told me, you gave me a bit more information on perspective on how the closer you want something on the screen, the more wider the width would be in relation to the head and such.
Yeah. Do you remember how I measured it? Because when I looked at it, I immediately knew it was off. Why did I know it? Because I was able to immediately point out the distance between these 2 lines is greater than the distance between these 2 lines. You must adjust that. Maxie's a phenomenal artist. Phenomenal, right? He's a great artist. But if you don't have the tuning, you'll be fooled by things. And what it is I can literally imagine like duplicating things over things, and I'm so tuned to it from years and years of graphic design and making micro adjustments that when I came into art, I accelerated a lot faster than other artists, because when I was shown how to do proportions and everything, I never really had to tune my visual measurement too much, but I knew it was the most important thing because of graphic design. So it was the first thing I tuned. And then when I tuned it, I have a whole lot of fundamentals I learned, but it was the fundamental I learned the fastest. The thing I had the hardest time in the beginning with was gesture. I should have started with gesture first because I've already been tuned to visual measuring. But if I told everybody what you should start with, visual measuring. If I started with gesture first, because I'm already naturally tuned to visual measuring from doing design work since I was freaking 12, so that's 20 years of visual measuring skill underneath my belt. Right? But in concerted practice, you could probably get pretty good at visual measuring in a couple months, or a month, depending on if you're tuned to it or not. If you're really not tuned to it, if you're putting down 2 lines and you can't sense, if you put down 4 lines and you try to make them equal distant from each other and you can't sense if one line is off or not, and you're looking at it and you're like, I just don't know if they're off or not, and you don't immediately see that they're off, just tune yourself to that. Like, if you learn how to tune yourself to that, like, it's like tuning a guitar. Like, people undervalue visual measuring so much in art. And here's the really crazy part. Most professional artists who have been doing it for long enough don't even realize that's what they're doing. They're just like, well, that's just the thing I do. But most of them started at a really young age, and they didn't know that that was the thing that they developed first that really started to skyrocket their skills, because they're not even conscious of it. Like, I'm conscious of it because I know the power of it, but you'll never see me like with like, unless I'm going for a style and I messed up my ratios. You'll never see me with things like in my art that are like so clearly misproportioned ever. And I can foreshorten easy, I can do whatever. But I look at Sakimi-chan's whatever, I immediately see that like Sakimi-chan's proportions are fucked. You know? Like she's a great artist and whatnot, but visual measuring skyrocketed my abilities. I don't know if that's going to be true for you. You know, some people get really good at visual measuring. You know, other people, you don't need to be as good at visual measuring. You're more tuned to the gestural side of things and compositional flows. That's also a phenomenal skill to have, is gesture. But if I had to prescribe a formula, if you took a class, if you went to CDA right now and took analytical figure drawing, and you were put through, I guess you could say, the gauntlet, Kevin Chen would sit you down. He would say, there's a model right in front of you. They're naked. It's either a guy, yes, you can see the pee-pee, or it's a girl, you can see all the goodies. Ignore that. Draw that person that's naked right there in front of you. Draw it. And then you'll go, okay. And then Kevin will go, okay, before you draw that person, I want you to draw a circle for the head. I want you to measure from the center of that circle to the bottom of that circle. And I want you to take that measurement and then make from the bottom of the circle the same measurement to the bottom of the chin. And then I want you to take that measurement and I want you to duplicate that measurement down. And that is going to be, I believe it's the top of the nipple line. And then I want you to cut that measurement in half, and then that's where the pit of your neck is, right? And then you're going through this process the entire time. Like, and Kevin, who's a phenomenal teacher, and you will never get, I can explain this all day, but when somebody actually, like, you should go to CDA. If you have the opportunity, go to CDA. Or if you can find a teacher that is truly good, pay them. Because if you can get somebody to sit behind you and point out, you just got that measurement wrong, do it again. You got that measurement wrong, do it again. It'll frustrate you beyond belief, but within like a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks, you won't even need to freaking go through a measure. But Kevin would tell us, and I think I was the only one that really listened because I was like, oh, I see what he's doing. But Kevin would tell us, I want you, for every point that you do, to make sure that point is perfect. And he said, in the 5 minutes, if you only get down to the neck and every point is perfect, you've done more than if you got all the way down to the feet and guessed. And I did that. And I saw other students that did that. The students that did that listened to Kevin, didn't matter where they began, they skyrocketed in skill. I'm talking skyrocketed in skill. Like, one thing Kevin isn't phenomenal at is teaching the gestural side of things and whatnot, but you have to go to the source that Kevin gets it, which is Houston, and Houston will teach you the meta. Like, it is fucking the tech. That's why he's the God King. He's the God King on this server. God King of Art. Not the actual God King, but God King of Art. Like, it's so bro, I get so fucking hyped when I think of Steve Houston because the wall I broke through of frustration when I sat down and Houston's like, well, you just do structure, then gesture, then structure, then gesture, then structure. And we're just going to make these lines real simple. Real simple. You know, boom, boom, boom. Real simple. You know, Bob Ross in it, dude. Simple. Like, my mind blew out the back of my head and I started skyrocketing in skill. Like, my next phase skyrocketed in skill. Now, where I stopped because of life and whatnot is I got to work on more hair and I have to work on drapes and clothing. And I know the route I need to take for those, but I need more mileage in that. But when it comes to figures, they're baby easy for me. I can interpret any style at any point, and with all the visual measuring techniques and proportion techniques, I can break down any style and find the proportional formula in heads of any style. And then I know enough perspective in order to foreshorten and move those simple forms in space. I also have a working method that allows me to play with those forms in any way I deem fit. I can do any style at any time with enough study, because when I do the study, it's not actually a study. It's not a copy. I'm finding the formula in it. And then I can adopt that style, what I like from it, from the formulas of just the proportions. Nothing else. Just the proportions. and the relationships between the gestural curves into my own style. And I can start stealing techniques from other artists without them ever knowing. Like, because my stuff is never going to look like theirs. Because I know what proportion they're using, but I'm using a different gesture. I'm using a different expression. I'm using a different shape language. I'm using a different balance. I'm using a different compositional flow in my gestures themselves. I'm using different rhythms. I'm exaggerating more. I can take anything from any artist at this point. I can look at any artist, and when I look and study that artist, I can learn from the artist by seeing the final result, and I can apply that to my own work and mesh my style any way I want to. Right now, if you want to know where I am incredibly weak, I have not developed a solid enough method. I have not had a teacher that has given me a solid enough method. Is color, color, rendering, clothes, and like the final finishes. I spent no time on final. If you go and look at my art, it's like, wow, the drawing's pretty solid. And my line work, I need a little bit more control over my line work. I know the fundamental for it, but I haven't applied it as well enough as I should. But I know how to apply line weights and whatnot. I just haven't experimented enough and pushed myself into mileage enough. But yeah, those are the things I need to work on the most. But fundamentally, I know my fundamentals beyond belief. And it's kind of crazy because once you get the fundamentals down, like, all right, I have what's called working knowledge of the fundamentals. I understand them. I understand the utility of them. I understand how to apply, like, interpret them in other artists to apply to my own work, right? That's a working knowledge of the fundamental. Once I have that, I can go any direction I want. I literally had so many directions in front of my face. And if you ever look at my work, you'll be like, yeah, your finishing sucks. Unless you're doing like a hyper realistic reference painting, your fucking finishes suck. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. They fucking do. Because I suck at that colors and painting. And I can't pick a rendering style to actually work on. But my figures are always solid. Always. They could be better, but they're always working. They're always solid. My proportions are, if they're off, they're imperceptibly off. You know? And that comes from a solid understanding of fundamentals. Then your problem becomes if you really get the fundamentals and like you can be like, I can steal from any style, and you actually understand how to develop a style and whatnot. Sometimes you get paralyzed by your own success a little bit because you're like, I want to go this way. No, I want to go this way. No, I want to go this way. No, I want to go this way. And like you kind of get lost in that. Now I'm just at the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go all the ways and do all the things. And do literally everything. I'm so sick and tired of being forced to choose one path. I'm literally going to do it all. I'm now happy with my understanding of art that anytime I want to do anything in art, I can do it the way I want to do it. It'll be a little bit harder when I get to the rendering side, but I'm going to do the photography. I'm going to build things and work in my wood shop. I'm going to fucking do everything. I want to do all the skills. I want to be a jack of all trades, master of just art. You know, everything else I can be mediocre in, because then the art can. I don't know why I'm telling you guys. This doesn't apply to you. I'm lost. That's a rant. Sorry, that was a rant. I have to go to the bathroom. What steps should you say? Huh?
Sorry.
What
It's a
steps
pee
would
break.
say an artist without a degree should take in order to get jobs in the industry? Whatever you need to do to meet as many people as you can. I'll get into that in a second.
Pee break. Oh, good night, Wita. Everyone in overflow, come here.
I'm here. Oh, well,
Hello.
Yeah.
Is everybody good? No one's like dying right now.
Okay, I'm back. What
Nice.
steps do you have to take in order to get into the industry? Well, you got to figure out. Well, that's a very long question to answer completely. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to refer back to what I said before. Again, what you're asking me is, how do I meet the right person? You know, like, how do I meet the right person? Look, you got to just keep. There's a couple things you can do in your favor, right? A couple things. Number one, if you want to try to speed up the process, go to where the industry is. The second you get into LA, you're infinitely closer to the industry. Then what you do is you start going to the figure drawing classes and go where artists are that are practicing. Then you meet artists. And then your likelihood of meeting an artist that's in the industry is quite high. In fact, you should make many, many friends and be a likable person and say, I'm trying to get into the industry. Don't say, can you get me into the industry? Just say, I'm here to try to break in and whatnot. Don't ever ask them. If they have an opportunity for you and they like you, then they will give it to you. You can ask if you want. There's nothing wrong in asking at times. But my thing is, I don't want you guys starting relationships with the intent of getting into the industry. Just trust the fact that I'm asking you to fucking have faith. But like, I know that's freaking ridiculous. Just trust the fact that, like, think of it like this, right? If you stay in the same place all the time, no matter where you are, whether it's on the internet or whatever, you're going to get the same result every time. You're waiting for somebody. The fact that you're all here right now, you're doing the right thing. You're in a Discord. You're a part of a community. You're getting involved. You're learning. You're meeting people, right? That's step number one. You must keep doing that. If you do not want to go down that route, then I would say pick your friends really wisely and stay in a group of people that are growing towards the same direction. So get into a group of friends that are all looking to get into the industry. Make it a close-knit group and whatnot. You can prepare a portfolio. I would say prepare a portfolio. You know, Ethan did portfolio reviews. You can always go on his YouTube. There's plenty of portfolio reviews. Sometimes, just having a portfolio and just kind of pushing it around in places where it's asked for, not places where it's not asked for. Don't go shoving your portfolio in people's faces. That can really hurt your image. But placing your portfolios in places where people ask for is like buying a lottery ticket. And you should try to buy as many lottery tickets as you possibly can. Because if you want to win the lottery, you don't want to just play once. You want to play as much as you can. So you do that. Then you meet as many people as you can. If you can't, then make a very solid group of friends. You know, a very solid group of friends. Be likable and share and make like friends, truly. If you're not messing with the people you're trying to make friends with, find another one. Trust me, there are friends for everybody that are on the same track. If you guys are all willing to grow and learn together, if you weren't friends before, but you're all open-minded and willing to grow and learn together, you'll become friends. I almost guarantee it. And just work towards things. Other things you can be doing, and this is kind of, I didn't really want to mention this, but what you can do is, this is a Tim Ferriss technique, is you can find art directors and people in very, very high positions and then just try to establish like an easy, quick relationship with them and whatnot. Ask them about themselves. I really don't like this method. Tim Ferriss is a proponent of it. I don't like this method because you have to be really careful because like it's difficult to do. In fact, I'm going to say, I should find the blog post by Tim Ferriss, but he talks specifically about how to meet famous people and whatnot. I've never needed to use this technique, but I remember him talking about it, and I remember thinking I should try it, but I have been fortunate enough not to need to do that. I don't know why, but I just tend to meet like Rice Pirate was pure serendipity, like completely. Jake and Bake was pure serendipity. Psychra, I think, was the only person that I actively asked, and again, it was pure serendipity that we even became friends. But I was a likable person, and he liked what we were doing, and he was lonely. So he was just with Bob Meatbag. He was lonely, and he wanted more artists to share time with and whatnot. That's the actual inspiration behind this server. Why I did this in this server is I'm trying to create you guys an environment where that happens more. So, trying to give you more opportunity for those serendipitous things. But getting close with artists that are better than you is very powerful. And then if you like people and they're not better than you as an artist, why don't you help them become better than you, or at least as good as you as an artist? And you'll get better even trying to do that. Just be a little bit careful with what direction you give. And build people around you. And then, look, if you think on terms like building everybody around you to be great and not just building yourself to be great and everything, everybody benefits off of that. And eventually opportunities will open up. Just be ready for them. So have a portfolio established, be a decent human being, have the courage to go into uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable social situations and find out that you can survive in them. If you need to be tame, ask questions. You don't have to be extroverted, loud, and funny and everything. You don't have to be what you imagine to be a likable person. Just being very good at asking questions and active listening and whatnot is usually enough. In fact, sometimes it's better. If you go in there making weird, awkward jokes and everything, trying to be the center of attention so everybody will like you, they probably won't. But yeah, do that, and then have a again portfolio. I'm like trying to review what I just told you guys. Oh, be comfortable with uncomfortable situations. Grow. Like a lot of your discomfort is just from a misunderstood understanding of reality. It's not that it's not true, because you didn't get your understanding from nowhere. It's just you haven't explored it enough to get the complete picture, and there's a piece of you that's holding you back from getting that complete picture. Uncomfortable situations. And then I would say where you can, whether it's online or offline, try to position yourself to be a frequenter in places where you have a higher opportunity of people that will have opportunity. And then you don't need to shine. And don't be and people. I hope that's giving you some bit of sense. It's a very hard question to answer. You guys all listen. If all of you that listen to me get one thing from me, other than don't put a damn price on your commission sheet and actually learn to negotiate, which is a level of talking to people. If one thing you guys get from me is be open and talk to people, and it gets you guys out of your shells as artists, that is the greatest gift I can give you. It doesn't matter how much I teach you about art, because that will enable you to get so much more. This whole server is built around that. I try not to ever ban anybody or deny them of possibilities here. Like, I want to mimic what happened to me and see if it works. But be decent and don't act with ulterior motives. People will always sniff you out. I don't care how good you think you are at it. People will always sniff you out. It's in the nuance in your behavior. And a lot of people who are looking to deceive others for the sake of their own gain or whatnot, it's in the nuance in your behavior that your motivations always show through. If you're genuine and honest with yourself and act with integrity, people can sense that. And people will gravitate towards that. It's a guarantee. Your words will always have weight. They will never be hollow.